Hi, this is Jason with Concourse Hosting, and today I'm going to show you one of the key benefits of Tableau Server, sharing workbooks. There are 4 ways you can share your workbook visualizations using Tableau Server: projects, email subscriptions, embedding, and linking. Today I'll show you how to use a link to share a workbook. Creating and using a link to a workbook is a way to share a workbook with non-Tableau Server users. Before we take a look at creating the link to your workbook that you want to share, we first need to look at a very important first step in giving non-Tableau Server users the capability to access and interact with the workbook, and that's embedding the guest user credentials. When we create your site, a guest user is automatically created in your user list. Guest is a special account that is used only to allow users to see workbooks or views within workbooks. The guest user cannot browse the Tableau Server interface and won't see server interface elements in the workbook, such as username, account settings, comments, and so forth. So we're logged into Tableau Server, and we're in my sample site, Larry. Let's click back and look at our content. We've got our 3 projects: default, sandbox, and live. And I'll start by going to my sandbox, where I've got a workbook I've been modifying, and I'm ready to make it live for sharing. In this example, I'm wanting to share it via a link. So I'll begin by selecting the workbook and choosing Edit. I want to save a copy of Fiscal Year Comparison Sandbox to my live project folder. So I'll choose Save As and rename it to Fiscal Year Comparison, appending the name with with live for live. I'll go ahead and save it to the live project. And I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the Show Sheets as Tab option, because I just want users to see this view only. I don't want any underlying views to show up as tabs and be viewable. Last, I'll choose to embed the credentials in the workbook, which embeds the guest user credentials and allows that non-Tableau Server user the capability to interact with the workbook. I'll close up everything and go back to the workbook now published in my live project. So click Done. And we'll open it up. We'll go to Share, which is in the upper right-hand corner of your options, and then copy the link. Let's open up Internet Explorer, paste it in there, and see what it looks like. Now you can see the workbook as a non-Tableau user would see it, a non-Tableau Server user would see it. You'll notice there's no editing options down on the lower left. They can't save, they can't comment, etc., but they can interact with the workbook. Change views, filters, etc. Let's finish up by showing you the permissions behind the guest user so you have a little bit better understanding of exactly what's going on. So here we are back at my test site, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the Users module, where you can see the 4 users of this site, and you can see guest user. If you see, whenever I hover over the menu item, one of the options I have for these users are changing its site role. But with the guest user, I cannot change the site role. If I could, that would change their permissions and access to content in Tableau Server. I can't do that with guest. This user's permissions and role are set. Now let's go directly to the workbook that we're sharing. I'll go back to Content, the workbook, check this box and click the menu, and we'll look at permissions this way. First off, notice it says permissions locked in the upper right-hand corner. This is because if you remember in the last tip, when we created this live project, we lock permissions so that whatever we put in here will inherit permissions from its parent. So whatever we put in the live project will inherit permissions from anything we copy from the sandbox and put in the live project. So we can't change anything right now with the guest user. The point of showing you this is for you to see what the guest user is allowed to do versus other users in the Tableau server site. Let's take a quick peek. You can see that this guest user will be allowed to view the workbook, download an image, look at or download any data that they had assembled via filtering. They can view comments that might be in the workbook already, but they can't add any comments themselves. They can filter and interact with the workbook, which is exactly what we want them to be able to do. And they can download the full data. You can see the other options here like share, web edit, save, download the whole workbook, move it, set permissions, etc. Those are things that your other users, your publishers, site administrators, etc. You want those people to do those actions. You don't want guest users who are simply looking at and working with and interacting with the workbook to have those types of permissions. If you have any questions about the guest user that we haven't answered here, you can just email support@concoursehost.com and we'll help. Hope that helps you create your culture of visual analytics and help you use Tableau Server to do it. I'm Jason, and thanks for watching. I'll be covering other ways to share workbooks using Tableau Server in upcoming Tableau Server Tip videos.